I've borrowed $300,000 from them at 0%. I know in your head you're thinking, well, their limit is only $150,000.
Right.
But I started with them at 15, used 15,000 on the business side in 2021, $15,000 on the business side at 0%. And this is when I wasn't unfamiliar with credit. I remember getting a car, I'm like, oh my God, it's not my personal side. This is like a mistake.
Right.
So I leveraged it, maxed it out, paid it down to zero before the 0% ran out. Next year, they gave me $30,000, transfer the limit to the next card. So again, that previous card is useless to me. It's useless.
Because it has no 0%.
Because that's no 0%, right? Yeah, okay, I moved that to the next card. The next year, I had $45,000 at 0%. Maxed it out for the entire year, bro. The entire year the thing was maxed. Paid it down to zero like a week before the 0% came up. She was like, oh, good job, you know? I think at that point, they made me private client, which is crazy. They gave me another 20 or 25, let's say. Let's go 20 for easy numbers. I moved that limit to the next card, 65. To present day, I now have $113,000 at 0% for all of 2026. And I'll continue to push that forever.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Marvin Francois Show, your number one source for all things business, finance, and investing. And today, is a very special day because our guest today is an entrepreneur, investor, educator, mentor, public speaker, industry leader, credit strategist, and business funding expert extraordinaire. He's the founder and CEO of Let's Get Funded, a business that's helped everyday business owners access capital, optimize their credit, and scale with leverage instead of stress. From his early days in the real estate industry to breaking into the scenes of business credit, this guest has leveraged his years of experience within the space to secure over $1.5 million in business credit and is educating others on how they can do the same. And whether he's teaching early stage entrepreneurs how to turn a 700 credit score into $100,000 in funding, mentoring established entrepreneurs on how they can leverage that capital into cash flow, or simply just inspiring all business owners alike through telling his story on platforms just like this, his mission remains the same: to show how everyday people can build purpose, profits, and passive income all through the game of leveraging other people's money. And today, he's here to do more of the same. Ladies and gentlemen, from the great state of New York, I'm here with the one, the only, my guy, Mr. Evan Rugen. What's going on, family? How are you?
Oh my gosh, I just want to run through a piece of sheetrock right now. That was insane, dude.
Of course,
coming
bro.
in like WWE, that was awesome,
funny.
bro. Like there's a reason why you're so successful is you're prepared. That was epic, bro. I'm better now.
There you go. There
Yeah.
you go, man. Happy to
Yeah.
have you on the show, man. This is definitely a long time coming. I think I've been following you from afar for quite a bit, so I always knew this would happen. But man, we made it happen, and this is gonna be one of them ones, man. I'm excited.
Yeah. I can tell.
Most
It's gonna be
definitely.
dope.
Most definitely, man. Thank you for coming on the show. I know that I did a solid job of introducing you, but obviously no one knows the man sitting across from me better than the man himself. So for those who are unfamiliar, let's get them familiar. Who exactly is Evan Rugen?
Yeah, so I mean, exactly what you said, man. But again, my job to your listeners is to be as valuable as possible in the time we have together. So how people mainly find me is I have gotten access to $1.526 million of business funding, all at 0%, without ever providing a tax return or paying $1 of credit card interest, all on the business side that I've used to scale and grow my business. And, I had gotten access to that capital originally for other ventures. But, after I started learning about credit, getting access to credit, people started reaching out. At the time, I was scaling a real estate portfolio, and a lot more people were contacting me about my credit and funding services. So I went all in on my funding and credit business in, I think I opened my Stripe account in April of 2023. And at the time of this recording, we have hovering between 55 and 60 contractors. We fund on average about $300,000 every single business day, and I've helped over 5,000 entrepreneurs get access to capital to grow and scale their business.
Wow. Powerful.
Yeah.
Let's go back a bit because even with the success you had today, I'm sure you would agree that the path to getting here was not a straight one. I'm sure you had to kind of go through some hoops and ladders to get to this point. Bring me back a bit as early as you would like. What did life look like before success in entrepreneurship? I know you mentioned kind of your early beginnings in real estate. From what I've understood, like you kind of grew up in upstate New York, so I'm sure there's some things there. How did we get here?
Yeah, I'm gonna condense this as much as I can.
Yeah.
So grew up in upstate New York, about 3 hours north of New York City. Different place entirely. Like grew up next to an alpaca farm. Like I'll put it to you like this. Like the first day of hunting season, like when you go kill deer and bears and stuff like that, we didn't have school. It was just off. Like it was the country. Now it's changed a little bit. There's a little bit more city flair up there, but
Yeah.
I grew up in the country. Moved to, always wanted to more out of life. There's always this, in the background, New York City, New York City. And I thought, at the time, when I was growing up, I'm like, yeah, New York City, it's like the same thing as Albany,
Mm.
and I would find out later, very different things.
Very different.
And yeah, I started meeting some people in high school and was working in a restaurant and would pass out business cards, half for like cute girls, the other half for like other entrepreneur activities. They literally said like Evan Rugen, entrepreneurial / miscellaneous labor. Met this couple and I started doing small jobs for them in upstate New York. And eventually they're like, yo, we're going out of the country for a month, watch our townhouse in Manhattan. That was in April of 2014. I was a freshman in college at that point. I told my parents, like, yo, I'm going to take the month in between college, that break. I'm going to go to New York City, get my real estate license. I do that in January of 2014, go back upstate, finish my first semester of community college, come back down to the city May 18th, 2014 with $500 in a duffel bag. I live with this wealthy family on the Upper West Side, start my journey as a licensed real estate agent. Fast forward to 4 to 5 years, the New York Times is calling me the frat whisperer because I'd rented so many apartments. And I'm like, you know what? I want to get to the other side of the table. I want to be the developer. So this is now COVID time. I buy my first deal. If you guys want to pocket watch me, it was 15 Spring, Hudson, New York. Bought it for $58,000. That's when I was introduced to business credit a little bit. Leveraged business credit. Bought that pre-COVID. COVID happens. All these areas outside of New York blow up and increase in value. I sell it 2 years later for $465,000. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the best developer of all time.
Yeah.
And then that's when I was introduced to credit. Started buying more real estate very quickly. I'm like, oh, I need more access to capital to expand. But I actually had, a late payment, a collection, and a bunch of inquiries pop up on my credit. And I feel like everyone who gets in the credit or funding, it's because something else went left, And I'm like, yo, I need to learn how to get access to stuff. I remember counting down the days. Like your biggest video is Experian. I looked at it before. How do we remove Experian inquiries? I can still remember the thought in my head. I gotta wait 2 years. I'm counting down the days till my inquiries fall off. Now you can just remove them.
Yep.
But that was the phase of me learning about credit. That sort of started happening in 21, 22. And then like I said, when I was my own first client first, I had very bad credit. Late payments, collections, derogatories, negatives. And again, like to bring your viewers through the entire scale of how I went through it and how we help people is level 1, fixing negative items, inquiries, late payments, derogatories, negatives, removing the negative items off your credit. Okay, level 2 is building out the file. Let's say you don't have any negatives, but you don't have anything on your credit. Really need to add some strength. Add tier 1 credit, add, maybe a personal loan or a mortgage or, something like that get some strength, right? Increase your credit limits. Level 3, non-doc funding, getting access to business funding at 0% without producing a single document. That's stage 3. Stage 4, bank statement loans. After you're doing $10,000 a month, banks start to open up and you can start getting lending there. Level 5, tax return-based loans, where, let's say you do $1 million in business, banks will give you 20% of whatever your gross revenue is. And then level 6, SBA lending. So I walked down that entire path myself. And now I help my customers do the same thing. I walk them down the entire path.
Let's unpack that.
Yeah, it's a lot of information.
Yeah, I've never heard somebody break it down into levels. So you talked about for yourself, and I want to make sure I get the number correctly. $1,526,000 in not just any type of business funding, but 0% interest business
0%
funding.
business funding. Yep.
Let's dive a little bit into that, because not only have you been able to fund yourself, but you've also been able to help several entrepreneurs from all across the country secure 5 to 6 figures, upwards of thousands in access to capital. If I came to you and I needed to secure business credit, and let's say I was where you were when you were at ground zero, what's the first actionable step I need to take before I start going through that ladder that you kind of just brought us through? Walk me through that.
You're like what? Where can you go with Let's Get Funded, or where do you go as a general consumer?
So I'm by myself. I'm starting from zero. I don't know anything about personal credit. I don't know. I just know that I want to start a business and I want to get access to capital, but I want you to teach me how I can do it myself. If I'm starting from ground zero, what's the first step that I need to take if I wanted to get $50,000 to $100,000 in capital?
Watch all your videos, man. watch Marvin Francois' YouTube. It's incredible stuff. That's a course you could take. But we have a 20,000 person free community where we teach level 1 and level 2 for free, like how to fix your credit yourself, how to build out your file yourself. Because I remember when I started learning about credit, I don't have any money to invest in this, and it's a great way to sort of break the ice. So level 1, level 2, fixing your credit, building out your file. That's a 20,000 person free community we have, and then we we also, like level 3, 4, 5, 6, we have a school community where, again, if you want to go business funding, we can work with you directly. Or if you're like, you know what, I want to try and do it myself, all the data points of how I've gotten that $1.5 million, it's all in my school community.
Mm.
And I'm not going to lie to you, I don't think we're the number one credit school community. I don't know who it is. We're probably 2 or 3, but I sort of came out of nowhere, did that without a YouTube presence because it's that valuable. So yeah.
What would you say are some of the easiest, for someone who's at that level 1 stage, what are some of the easiest ways to start building credit if I don't know whether it's types of cards? Because I feel like nowadays there's so many different cards to apply for, so many different lenders to work with. What are some of the ones that you typically recommend for most of the people that you work with?
What I would say, starting with level 1, get a win, man. Like, first off, let's see what's going on with your file. Let's remove the Experian inquiries. Get a win. I remember that first when I got 5 inquiries removed from my Experian. I'm like, oh my God, it was like Christmas. I'm like, oh my God, get that first win to get in momentum, right? It's like, you don't start by running a marathon. What do? Maybe start with taking a shower. The next day, hey, go in the sauna. The next day, walk around your block. You don't build credit, as you know, overnight. That's why credit exists. And the fact that we can even remove items off credit reports, people take that for granted. But again, we're consumers in America. All these items can be removed. We remove late payments, collections, repos. Like, for an example, like if you sort of people always ask, how does credit repair work? How does it work? We do it in a safe, legal way by leveraging, Metro 2 and knowledge-based disputes. An example that we're frying off so many student loans right now is because student loans federally backed. And this is an example, but it works. Student loans are federally backed loans. And so if you live in an area where a natural disaster occurred, like remember during COVID, everything was under forbearance, right?
Yep.
And you don't have to pay on that stuff. People think, COVID or the LA wildfires or the North Carolina, floods as natural disasters, but there's natural disasters that happen all the time.
Right.
Probably the snow we just got in New York City is considered a natural disaster, a very low one, but you can leverage that hardship and put that through the CFPB and all these different dispute platforms and get this stuff removed off your credit.
I've been in this space for a long time. It's my first time hearing that. So there's a way for us to leverage natural disasters.
That's frying right now, bro.
Lord have mercy. I did not know this.
Yeah, because student loans, they're always changing and they're going to different processors. It's annoying. People forget to turn on their auto pay and they miss a payment. It's like,
Interesting. Another thing you also mentioned too is I very rarely, there's only like a handful of people I've ever heard mention that they use Metro 2. For most people who are watching, why do you prefer Metro 2 over, let's say, like because I know some people do like factual based and consumer law. Why do you think that's worked best for you in your credit restriction?
It's a blend, bro. It's a blend of everything. It's like the way I look at credit is you want to just keep attacking these credit bureaus and where they're like, damn, this guy's really not going away. BBB, FTC, CFPB, whatever you want to do, factual based disputing, Metro 2, calling in, submitting second form verification, photo, with your client next to your ID so they know for a fact that you're verified. That's another thing that not a lot of people talk about is if you can show without a shadow of a doubt to either you're repairing your credit, you're getting access to business funding. If you can show that I am who I say I am, like we talked about backstage, LexisNexis, if you can prove that you're a verifiable human being on the credit repair or the funding side, it makes your disputes and your funding a lot more effective.
So once we get things like we clean up our personal credit and we're now putting our personal credit in position so before we can get business funding, one term we hear thrown around a lot, or people watching hear thrown around a lot, is comparable credit, right? Getting our personal credit in position so that we can leverage it to get the funding. Yeah. Is there, in your personal experience, is there a cap in terms of how much personal funding we want to build out before we actually start going for business credit cards? Or is it the more the merrier, essentially?
Yeah, I always say, man, the bank is a person, right? The bank is a person. What do I mean by that? Let's say I have a bunch of inquiries on my credit and I go ask you for funding. You look at my credit report and you see I've asked 7 other people for funding. And if there's inquiries that are not attached to anything to the bank that looks like, okay, you applied 7 times, you didn't get anything. What are you going to say? No. Same with, to answer your question about comparable credit, the max we tell our customers to do is 70 to 80,000. Because once you go above that threshold, again, the bank is the person. If I'm like, hey, Marv, I want to borrow some money, and you look at my credit report, you're like, yo, you have access to $80,000 right there. Just use that.
Yep.
You can go too high. Yeah. And that's unfortunately a mistake I see so many people that are just taught the wrong way. It's usually a trifecta. They're like, okay, authorized users, buy a trade line, and then no access to the LexisNexis, right? So it's like when you buy an AU, it's like, okay, you go above that total personal limit and you get denied. Chase loves denying people for too much available personal credit.
This is good.
Yeah, it goes 70 to 75 tops.
This is good, Evan. This is good. So we get the personal credit taken care of. You also said something. You talked about the big three, and you also mentioned authorized users and trade line. So you're pro or anti authorized user and trade line, or it
Trade
depends.
line, no. Don't. I'm complete trade line, throw it at the door. Because again, bro, this is what no one's talking about. It's the LexisNexis. If you buy a trade line and you go on the LexisNexis, they're gonna be like, for example, I've gotten access to 1.5 million. They're always talking about, oh, you need a virtual address. Everything is attached to my personal address. Why does that
Mm,
work? Because they can verify, okay, Evan is who he says he is, because there's all these data points online that connects him to this LLC. We know without a shadow of a doubt he is actually the owner of that LLC.
mm,
When you buy an age corp, an aged LLC, I might have confused them. When you buy an aged LLC
mhm,
and you go for funding, people do it all the time. They're like, oh, I just spent $5,000 in an aged LLC. It's like, yo, you're not going to get any funding. You'll get the notification unable to verify you because there's
mm,
no data online connected to that LLC.
mm,
And with an authorized user, I think it's a good place to start. I have 2 authorized users on my account. I wouldn't do more than 2.
mhm,
People come to me all the time. Again, like their account is entirely AUs.
mhm.
They bought a trade line and they built out their business credit. And I'm like, dude, you still are gonna get $0.
Nothing. You're not getting a
Yeah.
dime. Yeah.
Yeah. So AUs work in terms of establishing and starting your relationship, but you need some meat on the bone there.
One of the things you've mentioned quite a bit, we even talked about it off. It
Yeah.
seems like you're very bullish on this. Is LexisNexis?
It's huge.
For some people who are listening right now, may not even understand because we know experience trends in Equifax, but very few individuals talk about what you're referring to, which are the secondaries. For people who are watching and don't know, could you talk a little bit about what LexisNexis is and why it's so important in this entire process?
Yeah, LexisNexis is literally everything about you as a person. It's like the most legally significant thing other than you dying, right? It's
Mm,
it's any boat you've ever owned, any car you've ever owned, anyone you're related to, anyone you've ever shared an address with, anytime you've been late in your taxes, any legal issues,
mm,
um, any LLC you've owned, any person you're related to, literally everything about your file. And same on the business side. How verifiable are you? Have you
right.
ever had any civil events on your credit? All this stuff. And again, like people going blind with their applications. Everyone that joins my community for $97 gets a LexisNexis on both their personal and their business. And their
No ifs,
stuff.
ands, or buts about it. Have to get it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we give it to them. That's one of the perks.
Mm.
And again, I don't know. Truly, I don't know. The only people who have access to LexisNexis are banks, private investigators, and your boy. Because it took me, yeah, it took me 9 months to get it. I pay $3,000 a month for it.
Mm,
People just aren't going to make that sacrifice that I do.
mhm,
But as a result, people go into these applications a lot more educated. For example, we had a guy a couple weeks ago. His name is Jeff, and he had a 780 credit score. Solid. He's like, I'm ready for funding. I came from another company. They're all scams. I'm very skittish. I didn't get any funding. And I'm like, okay. I couldn't figure it out either because he had a 780. Everything was perfect. I looked at his LexisNexis. I'm like, hey man, you're Jeff. Who is Scott? He's like, oh, Scott. He's my business owner. He died 5 years ago. I'm like, okay. Well, right now, LexisNexis thinks that Scott is the owner of your company. Do you think a bank is going to lend money to a dead guy? They are not,
mm.
right? So we got it fixed up. We traded it out, updated the LexisNexis, and we got him like $150,000.
This is good, and I think this is powerful too because I think for most people, most people aren't familiar with LexisNexis, but they're familiar with, I'm sure check systems, right?
Right.
To where they apply for something and they get denied because they have something on the back end that's showing on their check systems report. The LexisNexis, based on what you're saying, is pretty much on the same boat, if not higher, because all it takes is one small discrepancy that exists there, and that could be the difference between somebody either getting denied or they get approved, but they get approved for a super small limit versus if they just took time to access their LexisNexis report, review it before they go through that process. Now they're potentially putting themselves in a better position, not just to get approved, but to be like your boy and get approved for larger limits, if I'm understanding correctly.
That's 100% correct. And I'd also say like it's a collection of data. It's like all your sources. Like, okay, we got this information about your LLC from the state. Okay, we got this information from this Experian business credit inquiry online. It's a collection of data from all these different spots in the internet or state filings. So again, it establishes like, hey, is this person real? And
Mm,
it's like, yes or no, like green or red. And that's why I would say virtual addresses aren't good because I'll tell you what happens. People come to me all the time. They think they're ready, and they're honestly some of the most annoying clients because they think they're like super prepped and ready to go. And their LLC is connected to a virtual address.
mm.
You know what it says in LexisNexis? It goes, business appears to be running out of a post office.
Really?
That doesn't look great.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Hold on, Evan, you teaching me something. Say it one more time just to make sure I'm hearing you.
Yeah, 100%, man. So when you have a virtual address, a
Yep.
lot of times it will say business is running out of a post office. Which, hey, if you're let's say you're making you state you're making $1 million, do you think you're really making $1 million running out of a post office?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Right.
And it's a whole nother thing of AI is we have so many people, stated income, whatever, and they want to put the highest revenue possible on their applications. Like, whoa, there, Scooter, let's take it back a step because, well, seriously, this is how it works.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Is that banks are not dumb. They're using AI. They're okay. You say that you formed your LLC 2 months ago, so you've been in business for 2 months, and you say your revenue is $1 million. According to the Bureau of Statistics, compared to all the other data points, that is a 0.0001 chance that you're making $1 million after 2 months in business. You're probably going to get a very small approval. So we're seeing people who are putting lower data points, lower revenue on the applications, getting higher approvals.
Let's stay there for a little bit longer, because so far we talked about the dangers of using a virtual address. We also talked about put the numbers that individuals are putting on the application and how it can make or break the application. You're working with people who are trying to get access to funding literally every single day.
Every day. What
are the other common mistakes that people are making today, whether it's because they're just moving out of inexperience, maybe because of something they heard on social media that you're like, that's not what the lenders are looking for? The most common mistakes most people who are trying to get funding are making right now.
I mean, there's guys that go to the bank all the time and they'll talk to me. They're like, dude, I think the teller was hitting on me, bro. I'm like, she was not. She was actually disqualifying you.
Okay.
Like shut up. Like, it's like you're going to see the plug. You're not like, hey, how are you?
Right.
Good to see you. It's like, hey, boom, out, in and out, all business, right? So people just running their mouths at the banks, disqualifying themselves. That's a huge thing. Not having comparable credit, not having the right relationship managers, not having the right bankers, not knowing who's lending right now. That's why we exist, man. It's such a pivotal thing. Like, I'll give you an example.
Let's do it.
Chase, they instituted a rule in 2026 that it used to be when you open a bank account, let's say you put $1,000 in there, you apply the next day, you get a $75,000 card. Now, if you apply for a business credit card within 3 days of opening your bank account, the highest approval you can get is $50,000. If you wait 5 days, you can get $75,000. So are you willing to wait 1 more day, 2 more days to get an extra $25,000 at 0%? Jeez. I am.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, this is good. So another term you just threw out just now, which made my ears perked up. You talked about relationship manager, because there's individuals who are watching that have heard that term thrown around, but don't really understand the power of having that. Could you talk a little bit from your experience about why having a relationship manager in the bank is so important? What difference it makes in us trying to get access to capital?
Yeah, man. I mean, and again, I've made these mistakes myself. My first application with Chase, I applied through something through the mail. Like, never apply through something you get in the mail, because then you're put in the promo bucket and you get a much lower approval. When you have a relationship manager, number one, you get priority, but number two, the bank can verify, okay, this is a real human being. Like, this actually was touched by a human. And we actually, we have a bunch of relationship managers now that have seen me online. They know that we put them through the gambit. We make sure their file is set up the right way. We make sure they've gone through the LexisNexis. We have a lot of relationship managers inbound be like, yo, we want to work with you because we know that we're doing good business. So shout out to my relationship managers. Hit me up.
I love it. So what another term we've talked about it periodically throughout the interview. We talked about 0% funding.
Yeah.
What is the significance for someone who doesn't know the significance of 0% funding versus just getting access to capital that we aren't getting that 0% interest on?
No, to be extremely clear, like, if a card is not at 0%, I do not use it. I do not use the card. We're not getting people personal credit cards, because honestly, man, we're here to help. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help people and get themselves into a better spot. A lot of my job is just renegotiating people's debt from the personal side, where they have maybe a personal card at 25% interest. I'm like, hey man, let's do a balance transfer and get that onto the business side at 0%. So at least you still have the debt, but you're not paying 25% interest. You're paying 0% interest. Or hey, you have let's say you got a business credit card at 0% and the promo period ran out. It's like, hey man, because all that debt is on the business side, let's get you a personal loan of $40,000. Let's use that money to pay down that card, okay? And again, now you have a personal loan on the personal side. The term is longer. The percentage, it's usually like 7, 8, 9%. Okay, now that debt is paid off on the business side. Let's get you another business credit card at 0% and transfer the limit to a new card at 0%. So it's all just like sort of financial Jenga that we're playing with a lot of our clients, and sort of helping them stay on that 0% for as long as humanly possible.
Diving deeper into that, is there a method to the madness when we think about the difference between the kind of banks that we want to work with? Because from what I understand, there's levels to banks. So you have like your bigger national banks like Chase. Then you have regional banks that, let's say we're in New York. There are
Right.
banks that are only specific to people who are here in New York. And then you have credit unions, right, who are also specific more so to a certain type of individuals. From your experience, is there a difference that comes into play when it comes to how much we're able to get access to when we're choosing which banks to work with, or is it all the same across the board?
It's a blend, bro. I mean, like obviously credit unions have to work harder for your business, and we do a lot. We do a lot of work with credit unions, the big banks as well. And again, like you have to know who's lending at one time. And another thing I want to dispel actually is people are always like, "Oh, I'm not in that bank. I need a foreign file to that state." Obviously, you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
And again, I made that mistake. For example, I wanted to get a Truist Business credit card.
Mhm.
I foreign filed to Kentucky, and it worked. I've never
Okay.
been to Kentucky in my life, and I got a $25,000 card. But I go into my profile, and it looks like LVL Group, which is the name of my company, which I got funding. They're like, "Yeah, you're located in New York, Kentucky, and Connecticut." It confuses the system, and I'm not as verifiable. So I'm not a
Mm.
fan of doing a foreign filing. I am, hey, man. Again, like I know, the value that people associate with something is how quickly they get a result. I know you want a foreign file and get over there. Maybe that worked in 2021, 2022. It works for your Instagram when you're trying to get clicks, but it doesn't work for funding because it messes up your profile on LexisNexis and you're not as verifiable.
Mm. Evan, you're breaking some hearts right now, man.
I know.
You're breaking some, you're anti foreign filing, anti virtual address. This is I got tears welling in my
That
eyes.
stuff worked though. It worked at a time, and
Right.
I remember those days. But like banks woke up. They're like, oh, banks are
Yeah.
tightening up. They are to a degree, but there's also a new wave of how to get funding the right way, which is
Mm.
trying to educate your guys on.
And that's you're breaking it down here.
Yeah.
It's the painful truth that we all need to hear, essentially. So this so going back to even when you were talking about the virtual address, obviously once again, you're speaking with relationship managers at banks every single day.
Right.
When it comes to the structured business, you're anti-virtual address. In terms of setting up a business properly, are there any other do's and don'ts when we talk about what the banks care about versus what they're like, I mean, if you have this is great, but like we really don't need it and it probably hurts you more than it helps you. How do we need to structure our business before we're going for funding?
LLC, it's still, don't put, construction or ATM or dispensary, in your business. Do
Mm.
something generic. Mine, fortunately, before I even got into funding, I named them correctly, Rugen and Sons. I don't have any kids. I think I was 19, but like now it kind of makes sense.
Uh-huh.
And Lampard Ventures. But between those two LLCs, I've gotten $1.5 million of funding. And again, like if someone wants to challenge these methods, show me that you've gotten more business funding than myself.
Come
Show
on.
me you've gotten more than $1.5 million, and we can have a real discussion.
Mhm.
But this is based on thousands of applications that we submit every single year and what we see working and what we see not working.
From your experience, because you talked about just the do's and don'ts when you're going in bank,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna be careful here because I don't know if you're gonna say something that's gonna hurt my feelings. Does applying in branch versus applying online make a difference when it comes to if we're getting approved?
Yes and no, man. It's like, okay, if you apply online and you have no relationship with that bank, you're gonna have if it's your first time working with that bank, you probably want to apply in person so they can verify, okay, Marvin's a real human being. But again, the bank is a person. If you don't like you're building a relationship with that bank, you don't walk up to someone, hey, do you want to go out with me? Like what? Like what? Who are you, right?
Right.
You make a deposit with them, you take them out to dinner, maybe a couple deposits. Oh, what other products do you have? Okay,
Mm.
cool. I'll open a savings account. The more things that you have connected to you, the more the bank can confirm, okay, this is a real human being, the more likely you are to get business funding.
Mhm.
So like, for example, right now I have $10,000 seasoning with Santander, which is a bank that no one talks about.
Ever.
Santander, 10,000 with Bank of America, 10,000 with Wells Fargo, 10,000 with Key, just sitting there for 2 months. I'm keeping the balance above $10,000, and then in 2 months when I'm ready, I'll apply for those banks.
Mm.
There's something called that a lot of these banks have called Know Your Customer, right? And you can sort of tell when banks are aggressive and when they're not. Like for example, Wells Fargo, it used to be if you haven't had a relationship with them for 2 months, you automatically get declined from their line of credit and business credit card. But they took that away because in 2026 they're getting a lot more aggressive.
Wow. So you mentioned also how for you were waiting 2 months. Is there a set time frame that we want to be able to? Because one thing you mentioned earlier with Chase was The difference between you being able to get an additional 25,000 is how much time you allow to pass before you let your account sit.
Right.
What's the golden rule of thumb of you probably shouldn't be applying for business funding unless you have an account with a bank that's been sitting for X amount of days, weeks, months?
Yeah, but I go back and forth on that. It's like because I have gotten funding from literally every single bank in town, right? I don't
Mhm.
want you to think you start working with me and and you gotta wait like 3 months, right? There are like, let's get some quick wins. There are some banks, some credit unions where you can apply same day. We work a lot with Elon Financial. I see so many people sleeping on them. It is, and again, the bank is a person, 0% for 18 months on the business side.
Mhm.
That's like me being like, hey, Marv, here's, and the highest approval they'll go is $38,000. Like, hey, man, here's $38,000. You don't have to pay interest on that until, what is that, July of 2027? That's a crazy bet they're making.
That's nuts.
That's insane.
Goodness gracious.
And I've gotten about $70,000 from Elon, 0% for 18 months.
Really?
For myself. And again, it wasn't one application. It's, hey, used it for 18 months, 0%, paid it down to 0, got another card, got a limit increase.
Lord, this is okay. So
Yeah.
you also mentioned another thing just now too that I wanted to piggyback off. And you talked about limit increase, because one of the questions I get from time to time that I'm sure you get is a lot of times people will watch episodes like this. They'll run the exact steps that we broke down, but for whatever reason, they only get approved for, let's say, like $5,000, $7,000 when they really wanted to be able to get $25,000. What are some of the common reasons why individuals aren't getting approved for larger limits? And is there anything they can do to fix that? To where it's like, I wanted 25, I only got 7. Do I just sit here and wait until, this bank magically gives me more?
Yeah, it's very commonly, man, comparable credit. It's also having a relationship manager. Like, for example, I was on the drive over today talking to you, to my U.S. Bank relationship manager, and we got a client 15. He did a reconsideration where essentially the underwriters relook at the file, and they got $25,000. So having a relationship manager can raise prices, can raise the limit that you get in your card pretty exponentially. Amex Classic, it's like you want to request a limit every 3 months, but really, man, again, bank is a person. I borrow $25,000 from you. I pay back. You're like, hey, Evan, yeah, I'll loan you $40,000. It's the same thing, man. You're much more likely to loan me more money after I've paid you back one time.
100%.
Right? Because that's because what you have to remember is if you get a house and you don't pay for your house, they get the collateral. It's foreclosed. If you get a car, you don't pay for it, repossessed. With business funding, you are the collateral, right? So they're sort of testing the waters out with you, And when I go for funding, me personally, I'm at the point now where I have so many banking relationships where banks only give you money when you don't need it, right? It's like, again, like you walk in one of your buddies, hey man, I really need some money. You're like, dude, you really changed since high school, bro.
Yeah.
But if you go in, you're like, yeah, man, I have a 50,000 card with you. For example, Chase, I've borrowed $300,000 from them at 0%. Which you're probably, I know in your head you're thinking, well, their limit is only 150,000.
Right.
But I started with them at 15, used 15,000 on the business side in 2021, $15,000 on the business side at 0%. And this is when I wasn't unfamiliar with credit. I remember getting a card, I'm like, oh my God, it's not my personal side. This is like a mistake.
Right.
So I leveraged it, maxed it out, paid it down to 0 before the 0% ran out. Next year, they gave me $30,000, transfer the limit to the next card. So again, that previous card is useless to me. It's useless.
Because it has no 0%.
Because it has no 0%, right? Yeah, okay. I moved that to the next card. The next year, I had $45,000 at 0%. Maxed it out for the entire year, bro. The entire year the thing was maxed. Paid it down to 0 like a week before the 0% came up. She was like, oh, good job, I think at that point, they made me private client, which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lord.
They gave me another 20 or 25, let's say. Let's go 20 for easy numbers. I moved that limit to the next card, 65. To present day, I now have $113,000 at 0% for all of 2026. And I'll continue to push that forever.
From now to the end of time.
For as long as I can anyway.
Lord have mercy.
But if you add up all those numbers, it's $300,000.
I'm gonna have to take the jacket off. All right. So here's the thing, right? We've talked a lot about business credit cards. Where do you stand? And I think you even talked about it when you broke down those levels. Like you said, level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. What are some of the other business credit products that we could also look into as well? Like for example, I know we know about like lines of credit. Where do you stand when it comes to those and any other potential products that we could be leveraging as well?
Yeah, man. Again, like you just have to take a step back, Marvin, and really look at it of what banks are lending at what time. I'll give you an example. Chase obviously went on a generational run. They're giving away everyone money. Like they've gotten a little bit more conservative. But remember, I think it was 2022. They're just going crazy with approvals.
Man.
Do you know why that is?
I don't. I'm about to learn now.
Okay.
Talk to me.
So in 2022, there's a bank called Silicon Valley Bank that collapsed.
Yes.
And Chase absorbed 90% of the deposits. And so they got all this money out of nowhere. They weren't planning. They're like, oh shoot, we have all this money. They have investors. They have to be profitable. They're like, yo, what's the quickest way to put this back out in the street and make money for us? Small business lending. So that's why
Wow.
they got really aggressive. So like you just have to look at how these banks flow. Another example, Wells Fargo. They a lot of their bankers, I think it was like 2016, 2017, they were juicing their numbers. They were inflating their sales numbers, which is a big no-no.
Right.
So they're government sanctioned for the last 7 years. They got their shackles off in 2026, so now they're going to get a lot more aggressive. If you remember, 10 years ago, I mean, still they're the second largest commercial bank in terms of locations, right?
Wow.
So they're getting a lot more aggressive. And then there's people like Bank of America. They're like, we've been waiting on the sidelines for a long time. We're getting our ass kicked by these other guys. We're going to get more aggressive. Because again, it's like what you guys have to remember is their goal is for you to walk in and store your money at that institution. Right? Because I'm getting 0% interest from Chase because I'm storing my money with them and they're technically getting 0%.
Yeah.
There's something called fractional lending where I give them $100,000, they can leverage that out at 9 to 10x. If I give them 100, that means they have $1 million of leverage that they can invest out to whatever they want to do.
So we're getting all this information. We're learning these different things. One of the other comments, I don't know if you get this, but I get it literally every single day where people hear the term like funding sequence get thrown around. Because we name these banks, but then people come back and they're just like, all right, I know when I apply because you said it yourself, I am the collateral, right? Because I'm going to be the personal guarantor. Meaning that there's probably going to be an inquiry that hits my report. Some people, because they don't know where these lenders pull from, they go willy-nilly applying for these banks that they hear people saying on social. And they look up and they're like, how did my Experian report go from having 1 inquiry to having 50 inquiries? Like what happened here? How do you go about finding out where lenders are pulling from? And is that how important is that overall to the amount of capital that we're getting access to?
Yeah, incredibly important. Like banks don't want you to look thirsty. If you're running all over town trying to get debt, that's not a great look. And again, like I always say to my guys, like you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Like that's why we exist. I had a call with this guy a couple weeks ago. I don't take a lot of sales calls anymore, but I did jump on with this guy. And he was pumped, he's like, yeah, I'm ready to go. And we're, ready to start the process. And he's like, oh, let me talk. I don't even know what he says. He's like, let me talk to the tooth fairy, my wife, or whatever he said. I'm like, okay, classic, whatever. All right, man, like, let me know, and he jumps off the call and he comes back a month later. His name's Larry. I'm going to dox you. His name's Larry. Yeah, Larry, he came back. And he's like, all right, man, I'm ready. And I'm like, okay, you took a month to talk to your wife? And we onboarded or whatever. And I look at his file and he had an inquiry from TD Bank. And I'm like, hey, Larry.
Try to run the play on his own.
I know. I'm like, did you try? And he's like, yeah, man. I'm like, well, this is, what this looks like now. Is like, I can't even help you anymore because again, let's say I go, I ask you for money a month ago and I come back a month later, completely different story, different thing, different profile. They're like, what are you talking about? You spoke on a recorded line a month ago. You just told me this other thing and you would get denied. So that's why we exist, man, because the banks are set up in a way that they're trying to de-risk their investment. But we have so much data and so much information that we know exactly what, number one, we know the data points the banks want to hear. Number two, we know sort of what banks are lending at what time. And number three, we have bankers at all these different banks where they have quotas, they get paid bonuses based on the applications and the lines of credit and business credit cards they submit. Yeah. And they know it's coming from our source. So we get our, very simply, my job is to tilt the game in my customer's favor as much as humanly possible.
We've talked, one of the things you've sprinkled in throughout our interview is just a lot of the changes that have happened with different lenders. How do you personally go about staying up to date with these changes? And more importantly, where do you see the funding industry headed? Now we're in at the time of recording this episode in 2026. Where do you think things are headed going forward?
More strategic, you just need more information. I think there'll be a lot less people doing funding. Again, when I got into it, some of the stuff I remember getting in, learning about becoming aware of credit in 2022. I opened my Stripe account in April of 2023. And I just remember thinking every day, oh, this is going to go away. They can't keep doing this for this long. But I've formed a mindset now. Do you remember, it's probably 8-9 months ago where people were, oh, Chase they're not going to have this program anymore. Do you remember that?
I do.
In July?
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, I've been, I don't want to say I've been around for so long, but it's like for every moment that you're thinking that Chase is going to switch up or it's going to change or whatever, you're not taking advantage of this opportunity.
Mm.
And when we're, at our scale, 55, 60 employees, I can't be like, you know what, guys, we're going to stop doing this. We're not going to do this. You guys are all fired, So it's like, I just have a blind faith until something is truly enacted,
Mm-hmm.
then I make changes. Like, for example, the government shutdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
People were worried about the government shutdown for 3 months before it happened. And the government was only shut down for 45 days, and we
Hey.
persevered and we got through and it was fine.
Yeah.
But any moment you're spending, I think that's for anything. Any moment, of course, you need to be aware of what's happening, but especially with the funding and lending. I hear all this other talk and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, all I can do is focus on helping my customers as much as humanly possible with the resources I have right now.
I want to go back because I want to see where we are in this ladder. I think you said there's 5 levels. If I'm not mistaken. 6. See, I'm here. I'm with you. So level 1, walk me through this slowly. Level 1 was what again? Level 1 was...
And again, for all you people that are watching, I've that is lady last week. She's, I'm a 0. I'm like, I literally made this chart up.
Mhm.
You are a 1. You can't be a 0.
Yeah.
You're starting at 1. It's like your SATs or whatever. It's on your name. So level 1.
Level 1 is...
You have negative items, incorrect information, late payments, collections, derogatories, right? And again, I started there. Level 1. Okay. After you remove the negative items, or maybe you don't have any negative items, or maybe you're level 2. Maybe you just don't have anything on your credit. Maybe you have 1 or 2. You have a kickoff account. Maybe you finance the Chipotle Bowl through Klarna. That's on your credit. By the way, stop fucking doing that, guys. You guys are killing me lately. I'll go for funding, and it's like a $20 burrito bowl and like finance on like over 6 years. I'm like, what are you doing?
If somebody has to finance Chipotle Bowl and it is coming to you for funding, it's time to go home.
Yeah, it's like going to your mattress and scratch together some quarters.
That
like,
is
what are
nuts,
you doing?
bro.
It's like 9 accounts.
That's
and
nuts.
as you know, it lowers their age of credit.
100%.
So,
but they don't know, but we know, obviously. But that's crazy.
And that's a new change. Klarna's just started reporting that stuff.
Wow.
But level 2 is building out your file. Level 3 is okay. To put a number to it, level 3 is like maybe you have like a 720 credit score above, more than 5 accounts, more than $10,000 of personal credit card limits. That's when you can start to get into the business funding. Because again, business funding, they'll give you 3x on the business side versus the personal side. So 10,000 on the personal side, they'll give you 30,000 on the business side. And again, like my highest card personally right now is 30,000 on Amex on the personal side. I have a $113,000 limit from Chase Bank, and then I have a $100,000 limit from Western Alliance. Sort of sleeper there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't even know it's a play anymore because they're in Nevada. I'm in New York. I don't even know why they're giving that money. But whatever.
You got it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thanks, guys. But yeah, level 3, non-doc funding. Level 4, okay, you have some money coming into your business. Bank statement based lending. That's like my guys like QuickBooks. Like QuickBooks has lent me $300,000 just based on the money coming into my business.
$300,000.
Yeah.
Dope.
Yeah, no, I would say that's a great play for, let's say you have poor credit, and it's not, you can't just use QuickBooks for accounting. If you use QuickBooks for processing payment, it truly is a merchant cash advance. But merchant cash, it's gross money. That's like the 25, 30. They can't even display it. They're like, oh, it's 2 points per day. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right.
But what it is, and I'll be real, the first advance I got from QuickBooks, I think it was 17%. It was $50,000. And I wanted to get that. I'll tell you why, Marv, is because I wanted that to report to the business side, right? I paid it off in like 2 months. Boom, that's done. Then they're like, okay, how about $150,000? And you click, and you know what the button you click is?
Talk to me.
Let's get funded. On the QuickBooks account, the button is let's get funded. I'm like, I'm going to have that trademark very soon.
There you go. And lo and behold. Boom.
Yeah, but anyway, that's a great play for if you have poor credit, you need to get money fast, and you actually have a business, run your money through QuickBooks. They have the best lending I've seen. Level 5, tax return-based loans. That's 1 good year of taxes. Level 6, SBA lending. That's several good years, P&L balance sheet.
Let's stay more in that 4 or 5-ish range. I feel like 6 is super duper high level. I won't go there.
We brought this one guy from a 1 to a 6 in about a year and a half cycle.
Interesting.
Yeah, we got him like $700,000 of funding. We ended it with a $500,000 SBA 7A lending loan.
4, so you talked about 4 being like revenue-based lending. Are the banks looking for anything different? Let's say our business is doing $10,000 a month. We've gotten to ourselves to level 4. Is the bank looking for anything more different than what they were looking for if we were just going for like 0% interest business credit cards?
Yeah, I mean, having money flowing through your business, again, it shows that you're a real human being. You have some velocity. You're in motion. Some ones I can think of immediately. Flagstar Bank, they're doing $100,000 with between minimum $10,000 to $15,000 flowing through your business. Again, again, just like do your research. They are pulling back, and you can look at the articles. They're pulling back exposure on rent stabilized buildings and mortgages in New York City. So where is that lending going? Small businesses, right?
Mm.
I got $100,000 from Flagstar just based on bank statements. Same with Western Alliance. I got $200,000 from Western Alliance, 100 on the business credit side, 100 on a line of credit. No tax returns, just based on the bank statements.
Mm.
So like once you get to that 10 to 15 level and you can submit that bank statement and it's healthy, and you don't even need to have that much money in your bank account. That you need to have like I think they look for like 10% of whatever you're applying for.
Okay.
That opens up a lot of opportunities.
Interesting. And also
Citizens Bank is another great one.
also a very great gem there as well in terms of understanding that typically they're looking at 10% of seeing that if you have at least 10% of whatever you're applying for is very huge. Then you talk about level 5 being like based on like tax returns,
Mhm.
which I think for most people that probably made their ears perked up because we normally don't hear people talk about that when it comes to getting access to capital. Could you expand on the level 5 base funding, if you will?
Yeah, and one thing before that, just again, so you guys understand my complete strategy and how we help with people with clients. There's something called the UCC.
Yeah.
People love Chase Bank for the business credit card, but I'll say Chase Bank's line of credit isn't that great because I think it's above $50,000 you get a UCC regardless. I don't have a UCC. I only have a UCC on one of my accounts that was TD Bank. They will give you a UCC. I could borrow $1 from them. I get a UCC. Any line of credit, you get a UCC. But my strategy, my client strategy, it's like, yo, let's get as much funding we can get without getting a UCC. The last funding play I get, like the grand finale, the last one will be a UCC. That I'm aiming by the end of the year to get $500,000 from Flagstar now with the UCC. But that's sort of the last stop because I can't get another line of credit without paying off a UCC one. It's almost like a mortgage versus second mortgage. But in terms of tax returns, again, like we grow with our clients. It's all about the value of your company is the lifetime value of your customer, right?
Yeah.
That guy that we got $50,000 to scale their restaurant. We have a guy right now. We got him 50 G's to scale his restaurant a couple years ago. Believe it or not, he's one of the largest food vendors at Gillette Stadium, doing $7 million in business, right? And he came back to us. He's like, yo, you helped me out when no one else was lending me money. And we're getting, believe it or not, we're getting him $350,000 from Bank of America, even though it's high risk. But if the cash flow makes sense and you've been around for a little bit, banks will lend.
And also, as a quick side note, for those who don't know, could you explain what UCC is? Because there's people heard it like, what?
Yeah. UCC is Universal Commercial Code, and it's essentially something that is put on your LLC. It's like a lien to where it's the best equivalent I can give you is like a mortgage on your credit. Is you can't get multiple mortgages on your house, right? You can only get one UCC on your LLC per UCC. And there's and again, you have to know, like for example, M&T, they do UCCs above $250,000. Flagstar's UCC above $200,000. Chase Bank is above $50,000. So I personally, and for my clients, I go for all the lines of credit first that don't do UCC, and at the very end, the absolute last one, it's like, okay, we've gone to as many banks as humanly possible. Let's go to the very last one. We'll do a UCC for that one because we're not going to get any more lending anyway.
So you also talked about with QuickBooks, the reason when you were getting access to the $300,000 that you got it and paid it back because you wanted that to show to the business credit side or just help on the business credit side. Is in 2026, is building business credit still important? Like when we hear people talk about like net 30 accounts and vendor accounts and things of that sort, is that something that you're for, against? Is it kind of all preferential?
I'm for that.
Are you really?
Yeah.
I'll throw this mic right now. I know you just said it on this podcast. Why?
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because
Talk to me.
That source data that gets reported to LexisNexis. That all that data, like the Uline, all that stuff is one of the sources that goes to LexisNexis. One of the best ways to become verifiable is create an experienced small business account. It's like $200 a year, but all that data you input into experienced small business feeds to LexisNexis. I'll show you yours after, and it shows up, high business. Again, I think it's evidence and risk. So business risk is one, and then evidence, which purely means, is this a real business? Right? Does this person exist? And then business risk is like, your NAICS code, how risky your business is. So yeah, I do believe that. And again, it's like, that is, it's comparable credit. It's like, okay, now when I go for lending with that LLC, I have a paid off $50,000 card from QuickBooks. I also have a paid off $150,000 line of credit from QuickBooks.
That looks good.
Because they gave me 50, and then they were like, okay, you pay that off. And the first one was 50,000 at 17%.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was 150 at 10%. Yeah. So now I have two paid off down to zero on the business side. Now when I'm going for 200 from Flags or whatever, they're like, okay, he has comparable credit on the business side. Yeah.
The vendor account thing broke my heart. Ever you're killing me. yeah. But in a good way. In that, like, once again, I love the fact that you're challenging certain things when it comes to helping people understand what matters and what doesn't. So this is very, very good. So
yeah, because I'll give you an example. Like, I don't do things for clicks. Like there's two different ways you can phrase things, right? I could say I acquired Let's Get Funded, right? That's a strong statement, and that's good for my ego. Oh wow, he acquired this guy's. Well, I'll tell you, what I did. I did acquire Let's Get Funded. What I did, how I got the domain letsgetfunded.com is I saw the domain was expiring in 6 months, and I stalked it. And pretty much when domains, when they expire, you can claim them. So I did purchase letsgetfunded.com. I acquired it for $9. And the same week, a week and a half later, private equity came knocking. They're like, hey, we saw you bought the domain. We found your contact. We'd like to buy it off you for $100,000. I swear to God.
And they ain't getting it.
No, because dude, the name Let's Get Funded, you can do it so many different. We're launching an ITIN program. That's the first thing. I don't want to go too deep into the business development of Let's Get Funded, but it's another thing. ITIN, that game is white hot right now, and we have a lot of people in our staff from Brazil, from Latin America. I was in the Philippines a couple weeks ago, and I'm walking around, and I was with my buddy Franco. Shout out Franco, best chief operating officer ever. And we're in Manila, which again, Philippines is, you could not be further from it. 9 a.m. here is 9 p.m. there. It's the furthest place in the world. And I look up, and I'm like, Franco, what's going on here? He's like, Evan, we have Amex. Whatever. This isn't a third world country. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh shit. So we're working on getting him an ITIN right now and getting him American lending. Type shit.
There you go. Took the words out of my mouth. Easiest ways to, so since you're building business credit, what's the easiest way to build business credit in this year if we know little to nothing about doing so?
I mean, you got to get your foot in the door. You can start with listen to one of those people on Instagram. You can start with the U lines or whatever. Again, to prove, I said this on that, to prove you exist. So there's data on you. But I don't know the names of all the different places that report your business credit, but those still exist. You don't have to get 30 of them. Get one or two, right? Because the worst thing you want to do is you forget about a payment to one of these things and it shows up as a negative, right? Just get one or two so it proves you exist. And again, like Chase, for example, they're like, oh, it doesn't show up on the personal side. It does show up on the business side though, and it shows up as high commercial utilization when it's maxed out.
Yeah.
So when you pay that down, on experienced small business, it's a score from 0 to 100. Like I had it maxed out. I had a $78,000 card, and I was going to get the new card. So I paid it down to 0, and my business credit score went from like a 30 to 100. But it's not that big of a deal, because even with a 30 out of 100 credit score, I was still able to get the 100,000 from Flagstar and the 200,000 from Western Alliance.
Have you ever seen somebody get funded and blow it and put themselves in a worse financial situation than when they were before they got to you? Because I know you told that story before.
For sure. I'm not going to sit up here and be like, oh yeah, everyone I know is super financially literate and they've all been super successful. I would say their ego we see less of them. Like if I get someone funny, they're not going to come back. People are ego-driven, individuals. They're not going to come back, hey, I just blew all the money you got. Like I see people do some dumb stuff for sure. Like we got this one guy funding, and then I saw him just like happenstance. He was in like a meme coin trading school community that was $3,000 a month.
Oh no.
And I'm like, dude.
It's over.
No.
You're going under.
No.
You're going under. Chase is coming to knock.
Yeah, it's a tough look. Yeah.
So from your experience then, how important, because I feel like one of the biggest problems that I have, especially for a lot of individuals who are newer in business, is a lot of them want funding, but they think funding is the win, right? They don't view it as a tool like you and I do to go and actually make money. They almost view getting a business credit card as their own money, which we of course know isn't the case. How important is having a plan before you actually go and get funded? Not saying you need a full-blown business plan, but at least some type of idea of like, when I get this money, this is what the next 6 to 12 months, the next 12 to 18 months, especially with 0% interest, is going to go ahead and look like.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do in our community, man. It's like, and I really haven't touched that, and we'll probably touch about that in another podcast at a different time.
Mm.
But a big part of our community is one, yeah, the business funding. So what is the what does it come with? So one of the paths you can work with us. We have a school community. Comes with free credit repair, done for you credit repair, free LexisNexis. All my funding plays, every single play I've gotten to get $1.526 million of business funding. But in addition, we have calls every single day. So every Monday we show you, and again, like this is more like again another topic, but the fundamentals of business: advertising, setting, closing, fulfillment. Advertising, letting people know you exist. Setting, getting the person ready to buy. Again, it's like you know, marketing is asking the girl out. Branding is the girl saying yes. You could ask 1,000 people out and you're just butt ugly, right? Shout out to you know, some trauma I faced in my youth, right? But branding is them to be like, yeah, I'd love to go to prom with you, right?
Yeah.
So advertising is you know is people want to know you exist. Setting, you know, which you do a great job of.
Mhm.
You know, when you type in business funding, you see that beautiful Haitian face, page 1, page 2, page 3. My guy's killing it. So people are like comfortable with, people trust you, right?
Right.
You know, and then there's closing. It's like, okay, I'm aware of him. I'm comfortable with him. Let's talk to him and buy a product he has. And then after that is the actual fulfillment, helping them get whatever they purchased from you, right? Or in a little bit more of a longer sequence, if you want more explained, is we call it mask off or mask off technically. Marketing, advertising, setting, closing, onboarding, fulfillment. So a little bit more thing, but what we do in the community is every Monday we show you how to advertise and scale your marketing, right? Every Tuesday we show you how to set and condition people ready to buy, Google reviews, BBB, you know, again, we'll talk a lot more about that, a little bit. Yeah, closing, every Wednesday call with your boy, every Thursday closing, you know, just again, how to get people over the finish line, how to add value, and then every Friday, how to fulfill at scale. You know, it usually is credit repair and funding companies, but it could be for anything, right? Yeah.
What would you say for to date? What would you say is the success story that you're most proud of for someone that's come through the Let's Get Funding brand?
Man, I mean, number one on the employee side, like, yeah, it's like I look at that. You just really got emotional out of nowhere. I look at the people I work with, and it's like some of the most talented people. Like again, like to talk about. This will take me out of the emotional states. There's 3 people at a company, right? There's donkeys, there's camels, and there's stallions, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of people, unfortunately, when you start a business, you get it. You start with a buddy or whoever you can find, whoever's in the stable. You have donkeys. They don't have a lot of utility. They're kind of just like hanging around. They don't produce anything. They're annoying to work with, right? There's camels, which they're very good for a long distance, but you kind of have to like direct them where to walk, right? And there's stallions where you're like, yo, you just have to like stay out of their way. They're going to make you a bunch of money and you're going to have to pay them a bunch of money, right? So, I mean, there's twofold that, but number one, our organization, our team, and we have people that, you know, I always give this one reference, you know, that we have a guy, Franco, who's Filipino. He's from the Philippines. You know, we met a year ago and we met, a little bit over a year ago. And he's like, yo, I really want to make it to America. You have virtual assistants, I'm sure.
Of course.
Right. He's like, I really want to make it to America. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to do my best, you know? And we started working together. We really started scaling. He's a great chief operating officer. And I flew him to America like 5 months ago. And we were together for the last like 3 months. And I was in the Philippines. I flew back over there. So, you know, people in our organization, you know, we have great people there, you know, all types of, you know, whether they're, you know, and I always try and find out, you know, like, why are you here? How can I help, upskill you? You know, how, you know, we have a lot of, you know, faith-driven humans and a lot of people that are like, yo, I need to make money because I just have a kid or whatever. We just have so many talented people that I work with on that side, and they're killing it in their careers at Let's Get Funded. And they were just overlooked. You know, a lot of them were overlooked. Maybe they're an Uber driver, they look funny or whatever. For a variety of reasons, they weren't given an opportunity and they're killing it. And then the client side, I mean, you got people looking like me, like at least once a week, we have like a 65-year-old woman. We had a woman this week, shout out to Patty from Albuquerque, New Mexico, who joined our program. She had like one charge off we were able to remove that. I was holding her back for years, a bunch of inquiries, again, solvable issues. She came to me, she's like, hey, I got my leg cut off. I'm like, I can't help you. I'm not a surgeon, but I'm like, I know I can help you. And that's a thing that was in my power. We helped her remove that charge off, those inquiries. Now she's getting business funding and she has a sound plan. She's doing like home care or home aid or something like that for the elderly in New Mexico. Really sound, boring business, but you can make a lot of money. And she was able to do that because we were able to fix her credit. So I
Mm.
mean, you can look us up on Google, and we have hundreds of 5-star reviews from all different, from the credit repair side to the building out the side and the business funding side. So yeah, it's a blessing, bro. It's awesome.
As we start to close, I'm curious, at this stage in your journey, what would you say is your North Star? Because you've accomplished so much. So what would you say you're still building towards now?
We want to get to $1 million a month. We're
Mm.
halfway there.
There you go. Simple and plain as that. Just trying to get to $1 million a month.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. As we start to
And there's other things, of course, but that's what is on my mind right now.
that's it. That's locked in.
Yeah.
As we start to close, my final question for you, for where you are now, if you, let's say you sitting right there, and then we
Gotcha.
have Evan 10 years into the future who drops in, and you're able to ask him one question, and he's able to answer you, but he can only answer in one sentence. What would you ask him, and what do you think his answer would be?
What would I ask Evan in 10 years? What would I ask Evan in 10 years?
And what do you think his answer would be? 10-year future you, 10 years into the future. What would you ask him? What would his answer be? But he only answered in one sentence.
Bro, it's like Click. Like, I've only seen like 20 movies in my life, but I did see Click.
Mhm.
And he like fucked up his life by finding out the answer to that question.
Okay.
So what I would ask myself in 10 years is, and he can only answer me in one sentence.
One sentence.
Can you still dunk?
Not like, hey, how do I get there? Is there a mistake I made? Nothing. Just, hey, you still got bounce. That's it.
Can you still dunk? I don't want to cheat because I don't want to cheat the system,
Okay. Let's say you could ask.
Because that's my barometer of health. It's like, if I get on a basketball court and I can't dunk, I'm like, oh, I got to hit the gym. I got to make some serious changes.
I've asked that question over 50 plus times. I've never had, everyone always says like, was it worth it? Did you keep going? Nobody has ever said, hey, can you still touch rim? That is.
No, I'm talking dunk. I'll always be able to touch rim. Yeah. Was it worth it? What's the title of this chapter of your life? It's all about balance. It's like, no, I want to know if I can still dunk.
Evan Rugen, one of one, ladies and gentlemen. Brother, it's been a pleasure to have you on here. I'm excited to, of course, bring you back for part 2. Your camera right here. Let the people know where they can find you, what you have going on, and how they can get connected with you.
Yeah, man. Bowery BOI, Instagram. He's gonna invite me to the collaborator. We have a bunch of YouTube content coming out. School community. We have a free community. We have a low ticket community. It's $97. Again, that comes with free LexisNexis poll calls every single day. At this point, if you can't find me, this podcast get crazy, by the way. We want to go crazy. I had a lady message me on Venmo. I'm like, what a move. Like,
on
there was
Venmo? Crazy.
Yeah, I'm like, there's like 7 other, you could have emailed me. You could have met.
Yeah.
Maybe, I'm like, that's weird. That was a weird move. So don't hit me up on Venmo. But yeah, man, just type my name, Evan Rugen, letsgetfunner.com, Bowery Boy. Yeah, I'm reachable.
There you go. And I appreciate each and every single one of you guys. This man said I would ask if I could dunk. I'll never let that go. That is so funny. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for getting tapped in and wrapped in with this episode. And if you haven't already, what are you doing? Take a second, take a minute, take an hour out of your day right here, right now to show this episode some love. Tell a friend to come back and watch it again. And make sure you get connected with any and all things Let's Get Funded and then my guy Evan has going on. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host with the most from coast to coast, Marvin Francois, and that's the always incredible, never indelible Mr. Evan Rugen. You guys have been great. I've been amazing. This has been fantastic. Thank you all. God bless. And until next time, peace.